The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning or good afternoon. This is Brad Spates, Guide Technologies. Thank you for attending our Infor webinar series. Today's topic is Burst, a single source of the truth for data-driven decision making. I'm going to have Rick Altino and Carlos Vila do the presentation and demonstration. During the webinar, all lines are muted, but please use the chat or the question functions if you've got questions or issues. This session is being recorded, and a video file of this recording will be sent to all participants a few days after the webinar. With that, I will turn it over to Rick Altino.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning for those of you on the West Coast. So we are covering the whole country here. And as Brad said, we wanted to get into today the Burst situation, is how well Burst works and how well it's integrated into XA. Make sure you have an understanding of this tool. This is something that we started talking about a little over a year ago. We had a webinar on this last year, at the beginning of last year, when it was much more of a newer concept. We now have this installed operational at a number of different accounts, and more people are very excited about what Burst can do. So we want to get in and show it to you right now, make sure you understand. As we're looking at it, before we get into Burst itself, I want to give you a quick 2 or 3 minutes on the fact that Release 10 is currently scheduled for June. It is already out in limited availability. This is real. This is very exciting. We have all the affiliate channel has already gotten this installed, so we're testing it, preparing it for customers. Plus, there are 6 customers out there that have agreed to work on the initial version to make sure it's tested and operational. So when it comes out, it's very well received. So very excited about what are some of the things that it's going to do. Want to let you know the main function, the main enhancement coming in here is the entire new HTML interface. Getting Link completely up to speed on all of both Infor and internet standards. You are used to understanding NetLink as this object-oriented function that's on the screen, but it's actually going to be much broader than that. It's going to have a lot more capabilities. For instance, there's an entire new Explorer front end for your iSeries, which is called the System I Workspace Anywhere. It gives us a single way of getting into the system. This is very similar or a part of what you're used to seeing demoed in iOS and for operating services, but this is specific to the iSeries. It allows you to have all of your objects on the screen, and it allows you to have favorites and be able to move forward and all those different functions. So it's a very nice tool. And what you've been seeing also advertised, of course, is Infor operating services. All of these are fully integrated and operational on Release 10. We are encouraging our customers to put together plans to get there. There's no reason right now that this isn't on your roadmap, your personal roadmap for you guys. It is very powerful tool. And any of you that have multiple sites, this solves all the speed issues between your sites. No longer needing remote desktop servers and Citrus servers and functions to help speed up the process. It's all in HTML. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward. Some of the things it's going to look like. It's fully integrated into all of what you call Powerlink. It is the Powerlink capability, except it will be more powerful than Powerlink. Here's an example looking at the screen with the widgets on the side, compound cards associated with any particular part. This happens to be part Z 2006. As we're looking at these things, of course, we go into our list views. We now have all sorts of new capabilities. All the list, sort, subset capabilities are all now built in to NetLink, including more tools than what's in Powerlink, so you can do subsets on the fly with these particular shortcuts that are available. Direct to Excel downloads. Very good tools that will affect all of our customers. And the one question that's always come up, will I still be able to have multiple windows? Yes, we're supporting workbenches. They are not called workbenches and they have a slightly different technology. So we will have to look at how your workbenches are built in Powerlink and bring them over. But you can see on one screen, I have a list view calling compound cards with multiple windows open, calling widgets on the side that can bring up additional linked objects directly out of XA. So workbench capability is a part of this process. Finally, for those of you that are concerned about the fact that you have custom green screen programs or queries or things that you would like to have access to, this new technology fully supports the legacy system. XA is getting rid of the green screens, not on release 10, on release 11. I'll show you that in a second. But for now, if you still have green screen requirements, using this technology, not only can you call programs, you can call iSeries commands. Just to show you, if you call a green screen program, it comes up in NetLink. This is not host presentation server for those of you that tried that in release 9 with Powerlink. This is built into NetLink, so it is very easy to use. There's nothing to set up. The configuration is right there. So last slide on this before we get into Burst, because that's what you're here for. We are currently at 9.2.2. If you aren't there, consider now how you're going to get to release 10. Guide will help you with this, but this is coming out in June of this year. Release 11 is coming out, scheduled for late next year. This is the beginning of the end for the green screens. This is going to be a very, very powerful release. It will be the largest release in the history of XA, and that's a long history. So there's a lot of stuff coming out here that you will want to take advantage of when it's available. So there's my 5 minutes on release 10, on the importance of staying current and getting updated with the latest capability. We will be doing a webinar on release 10 next month. I think I've got that on a slide coming up. All right, so we're here to talk about Burst. Burst is an add-on to an ERP system. Why do we need business intelligence? Well, very simply, any ERP, no matter which one you have, is a transactional system. By design, I can look, these say 20 years, it can be any number of years. I can look at every shipment for the last 20 years. I see it part by part, customer by customer. However I want to organize it and sort it, I have all that detail. I can see every labor transaction, every reason code for a work center. I see all that detail available inside my ERP. So I don't need business intelligence for that. But generally, as an executive, as a manager, when I want to look at history, do I want to see 10,000 lines of SA transactions? Probably not. I want to see graphics. I want to see trend lines. So if I want to see seasonality of a class of products in a graph by quarter, I can't do that. So what is it that we have to do when we're in XA or any other ERP? Well, we have all these detail screens. Here's all these transactions that I'm talking about. We have all that at our fingertips. How do we do this? Well, it's the same thing most of you are doing now. You download it to Excel. Then you sort it, you summarize it, you create a graph, you create a chart, you create a report. And that then, you've just created a single piece of business intelligence. That's what you've done. Now think of how long it takes you to do that and what's involved and the thousands upon thousands of pieces of information that are in your XA database. Well, we want to get rid of the Excel interface. You can always use Excel, but we want to bypass the Excel interface and introduce you to business intelligence. What business intelligence is, another way of saying it, it's your KPIs across your data in a graphical form or a data form so that you can see it quickly. This is a dashboard. The point of a dashboard, just like when you're driving a car, you're going down the interstate at 60 miles an hour, you glance down, you want to know what your speed is your engine overheating, none of my idiot lights are turned on, so I go back to driving. I do that in a matter of seconds. Business intelligence can do the same thing for us. We bring up our KPIs in the morning. We can have them highlight in red if something's wrong. We can do anything that we want with that data. Turn on my computer, here's my 4, 6, 10 data points that I want to look at. They pop up on my screen, everything looks good, start work. I just created my daily report, my daily status, my daily KPIs, and they're specific to me or to the company as a whole. So Infor Burst is the next generation business intelligence. Infor was developing their own business intelligence system. They recognized that what's on the market was better and less expensive than what they were developing. They bought Burst a couple of years ago. It is now an XA application. All the data is fully integrated. It's a part of our tech stack as far as Infor is concerned. So this is integral moving forward. And this, by the way, when you hear about artificial intelligence, it uses business intelligence to develop that information. So as you're moving into artificial intelligence into the future, and we will be, I mean, a lot more than just asking your computer how many parts do I have so it can answer you without typing. It will be an integral part of what we do. It's going to be based on business intelligence. Now, our business intelligence is not limited to sales analysis. One of the first customers that implemented it from Guide has TVs on their shop floor, and they use it for status of work orders, status of work centers. So they have those big elevated TVs on the ceiling. We have people that have, the entranceway of their building that have certain status reports on them. They are across your entire database. Marketing, inventory, finance, you can read the bottom of the screen. If you've got a data file on your iSeries, you can put it into Burst. In fact, if you have a data file on a PC or a network, you can put it into Burst. This is not limiting you to what Infor developed. It's open to you to be able to manage it your own way. So how does Infor provide Burst to you? Well, just like Excel, when you buy Excel, it doesn't come with spreadsheets. It comes with the ability for you to make spreadsheets. So what Guide has done, and Ross Freeman has recognized this as the possible standard for XA, is we've developed an interface that links your entire database into Burst. When Infor provides it, it comes empty. When we sell it as a kit, it's going to come with the interface built in. You're going to have complete access to your system. I'm going to show you a couple slides coming up how meaningful this is, but literally that could save you thousands of man hours, thousands, to develop the ability to read this data. So what a business intelligence system needs is the detail files. If you've ever printed out a file definition out of CrossApp in XA, you'll know it's over 60 pages. There's 50 lines of files per page, and you can see by these overly logical description of these file names, they're just so intuitive. Unless you are into the technical side, this is not an easy way to access the system, but this is what business intelligence needs. It needs the most detailed level of the data in your system. Now, what are you used to seeing on your system? Well, you're used to seeing something called customer orders and quotes. When you go into that, you might be opening up 75 files, and each file might have 50 to 250 fields. But you can go into customer orders and quotes and get to the data you need. It's logical. That's what our interface is built across for Burst. I mean, do you want to manage it at a file level, or would you like to say, show me customers, show me customer orders? So what we did is we built a tool. We built the interface. So what is ATX? ATX is a tool that links any of your data files from the iSeries that go through IDF into Burst. Very simple. It doesn't copy the data it creates the links. So inside of Burst, I can go get the actual data live, which means I don't have to wait for the system to do a data refresh overnight. If I have, like I said a minute ago, I have a customer that has live manufacturing data on their shop floor. That is because Burst can read the data directly out of the XA database. This makes it very simple and easy to understand. Now, how do we get that data into the system? Well, we need to load that data at a detail level, but it's got to be defined in such a way that Burst can summarize it. The technical word for this is star schema. That's not anything you ever need to worry about. That's what it's called. So I'm using it, but the bottom line is that's what's created in the background. Once Burst knows the star schema of the database, it links all the files, all the objects, all the fields together so that you can use it from a user standpoint. You can go in and say, show me customer orders, and you're going to get customer orders. Now, let me show you real quick how complex this can be. What I have here is this square with the dots in it represents all the files that are just in purchasing in XA. This is real. So we went in and obviously they're tiny dots. If we zoom in on them, which I will in a second, you'll be able to see file names and things like that. But these are all the dots. Now, one of those is a vendor master. One of them's a purchase order master. One's purchase order line items. One's quotes. One's, you go on and on and on. All the different fields that are in there. If you're doing queries, you know how you have to manually link files together and know what fields to go get. Well, the system already knows that. So with the interface that we have provided, it will create all the links between those objects. So all those gray lines that are on your screen right now are pointing to how these objects talk to each other. You don't have to do this. Now let me just zoom in on one of those and give you an example. So I take that little corner, and you can see as you zoom in, you get the file names, you get the individual lines, you can see all the detail. And if I wanted to look at that just from one file standpoint, I can zoom in on that. And it shows all the links that are available from that file. So all of this happens automatically with your XA system in Burst. So the ability to create meaningful KPIs from you as a user will exist within days, not even weeks, within days of you installing this software. Let me give you another example. Purchasing is a relatively simple system. For those of you who know our customer order system, it's a little bit more complicated. The number of dots here just increased dramatically, more than double. So from that, what does it look like when we link all those things together, all those things that you would have to do manually? Well, it's getting uglier and uglier. And at this point, I was talking to Danny, who created a lot of this for me. He's one of our consultants that works directly with Burst. I said, what would it look like if I looked at the entire XA system? Well, he showed me this. So you can imagine this is pretty complicated. If I zoom in on just a little piece of it, you can see all the file names are there, all the details there, all the gray lines are there. This is what you get with the interface. So I try to take something that's very complicated, star schema, and put it into a graphic form so that you can see the amount of work that goes into this. But that means when I'm looking at an item in a customer order, I can bring up the description from the item master. I can bring up the manufacturing order that produced it from the manufacturing system. I can bring up the cost. I can bring up the inventory transactions. They're all linked. So what that means from an XA standpoint. Now, by the way, notice I have multiple ERPs on here from Infor. This interface actually works on the IDF. All these ERPs run the IDF, and they don't have to run it in maintenance mode. All they need to do is have an inquiry across it. So for instance, if you're still running accounting management, you have AM+, you have IDF across accounting management. So Burst can read that information. So if you have something that looks like this list window that we're all used to seeing, With Burst, we can turn it into something that looks like this and get real management information out of it. Carlos is going to give us a demo of this in just a minute, but you can drill into these, you can change the variables, lots of flexibility. You do not need to be a programmer to do this. The way I like to say it is it's simple enough, even an executive can use it. So what does Burst do? And this is sort of important. Burst creates a direct link from your XA system directly to Burst. Now, Infor, and you've seen the marketing information, by the way, these are powerful tools to be able to use a data lake, to be able to bring in data from any database, SQL capable databases, even third-party databases. All of those use the data vault, the data lake, and they can merge multiple environments together. For those of us that have a manufacturing environment or a manufacturing LPAR, we don't need to implement the data vault and Infor operating services in order to get that information into Burst. We can do it directly. Now, we still support all those other tools. So if you have multiple environments, or if you even have different ERPs besides XA, we can merge that data together in Burst. But the key that I'm saying here is we allow a link directly to Burst without going through iOS. Many of you, and I know this because most of you know me, are not running Infor operating services, at least not yet. When you want to get into workflows, Infor document management, a lot of cool stuff. That's where that's going to be. But if you want direct access, it's available to you now. Now, I'm showing you all these cool screens and these arrows. I'm trying to figure out how do I show you, how do I demo this to you so it's meaningful? So I brought up this very simple diagram here. When you are in your home and you turn on the water, what happens? Water comes out. So when you're looking at business intelligence, you're looking at the results. What does it take to get that water out of the faucet? Well, there's lots of pipes in your walls, in the ground, going out to the street. And you don't want to mix up the pipes that are going out and coming in. That would not be good. And through that, you also have electricity. You have all sorts of other functions in your walls. You don't want to run the electricity through a water line either. So what happens inside the walls? What happens inside Burst is very complicated, but it's not necessarily demoable. It's behind the wall. What is demoable is the results, and that's what Carlos is going to be able to show you in just a minute. So when you think of Burst, and when you think of the interface, the ATX, that's the plumbing in the wall. The data, the graph, the dashboards, that's your running water. Now, here is a graph that Ross has used a number of times showing the XA product. The black lines represent, the black words represent direct XA product, XA applications. The red represents iOS or Infor applications that integrate into XA. So those are all really great to see it, but notice that business intelligence goes through ION. Well, with ATX, we give you that direct connection. You do not need ION. You can go directly from your XA database into business intelligence. So if you understand what this is, if you know how to get to your data, you can turn this into this. And obviously it's not limited to your computer. Those are pads, those are phones. There are apps available for you to get this information. So it's very nice. With that, that's my introduction. I said 20, 25 minutes. I'm pretty close to that. I want to turn this over to Carlos. Carlos is going to walk through the actual capability. He is going to be in live code. Unlike me, again, most of you know me. I'm the business guy. Carlos is the one that is smart and makes it all happen in the background. So Carlos, take it away.
Hello. My screens aren't quite as pretty as Rick's, but I think I wanted to give you guys that are on this call a slightly different approach to what ATX really does. So one of the things that ATX does, it eliminates your IT department's having to build a BI data warehouse. For you to build a extensive BI data warehouse, you have to have an expert knowledge of the XA database. You have to have an expert knowledge of the results that are derived. You have to be able to build complex tables to meet your BI requirements. And what happens once something that you have built requires a change because your application actually changed or you included new functionality? Well, you have to go back in and change everything that you've built to include the new dynamic. So from a standpoint of a developer, they would first have to go figure out what attributes they are going to include in this BI table. They have to figure out what the extensive calculations are that are required. And then they've got to figure out the entire table requirement that's going to fit its needs. That in itself is just hundreds of hours worth of work to get it right. This here, it just happens to be the files at a very simple level of what I would use for an invoicing BI view. So the ATX solution uses IDF to build a star schema. Not only does it use the information that it finds from XA, but it also utilizes any changes that you have made to the IDF. That includes your custom database bases. If you've modified a user-defined field to have a different heading, it pulls all that information into the ATX model. If you add more content, you can regenerate the model by just rerunning it, and it will incorporate any new changes. It does really require minimal IT support to have this up and running. Now it's become more of a process, and potentially you have some type of server or hardware that needs to be managed and patched, but the application itself will continue to run and generate the model that we are looking for. But the end result is it provides you with a complete reporting, analytics, and dashboard solution that you can use across any of your IDF applications. And it utilizes naming conventions that are understood extremely well by an end user. So, how do we get there? Well, as Rick said, we utilize IDF and we take information that is available to you. And in this example here, I'm using ItemWarehouse. And if I take a look at the information that's coming from here, there's a few fields, like, for example, available, that really isn't the value that is on the database. That value is actually a derived value. It's a calculated field. Well, because it's a calculated field, ATX has already taken care of that in the background, so you will have that capability available to you. So all the information that you see here actually gets pulled into ATX. The way we do that is to basically take the item warehouse, or in this case, the business object, but I'm going to use the item warehouse as an example. And you'll notice that we have this value called class, which is the third field in, and we call that the item warehouse. And that item warehouse class really has a ton of attributes. And associated with those attributes are a ton of relationships. All that information gets consumed by ATX to come up with the model. What we end up with is with a distribution of information that gets into Burst, and everything will have basically a value that is associated with an item warehouse. So the class name that we saw on the prior screen will be associated to the fields that are generated by that business object. And what it ends up doing is creating a large star schema, as Rick showed, that basically represents all the different relationships that you would find associated with inventory or EPDM or whatever it is that you want to use. Included with ATX, because we realize that the first time out, there's going to be a requirement to have content that is available to you. We also provide some basic dashboards that are usable by everybody. So we have some executive dashboards that we provide automatically. We have some sales basic dashboards that you guys can grab, use, modify, make your own. And we give you a lot of different ideas as far as how you can utilize the information. So that way you're not starting out from scratch. You actually are able to pattern things based on some content that we provide with the ATX tool. So these are mostly sales, but we also have inventory views, inventory values, purchasing, AM financials as an example. We are able to provide you with a lot of information at a glance, and all these can become a solid foundation for anything that you produce. So now, I'm going to quickly show you the one, this is the actual model that gets built. I'm going to take you right to the dashboard. And hopefully everybody can see the screen pretty well, but there, like Rick said, there is a lot of different things that happen when we try to link things together. And if right now we are linking 157 different business objects with a lot of different links and relationships. If I go into the purchasing, there is a lot less objects. There's going to be only 46 that are included now in the representation. And it tells you exactly how you can go from item to item unit of measure, or to the vendor, or to the enterprise item. So it gives you all the relationships. And it also gives you the name in capitals as to the class that it brought the information from. So using our same example, we got ItemWarehouse over here. Now taking a look at a physical dashboard, I'm going to take you through some of the development that we have performed. And these will be the dashboards that now, rather than showing you those in a PowerPoint presentation, I'm actually going to provide you some details associated with how this has been set up. So the dashboards are what you see here. Sometimes it can get pretty tight, but you can always expand the information so it actually looks a little bit differently. You can point to points on the graph, and it gives you some details about what that 3.8 million represents. This information here was your sales. This is your current backlog over here. So you know from a very visual standpoint how the information, or what type of backlog do I currently have as far as open orders versus how I'm doing in sales. So, you know, kind of nice graphs that you can utilize. And as we go through, we have provided different graphs depending on what it is that you want to be able to see. So here are the top 10 graphs. And I'm just going to go right into a purchasing graph over here. So one of the things that I'm allowed to do is actually edit things. Right now, I can't really do anything. I can go and click on something, and it will allow me to either shrink information down based on what I've clicked, and it will represent the information on different parts of the graph, or I can go through and do some selections and apply it, and it will change the contents of the graph, so that way information will be what it should be based on what I've selected. In this case here, I am going to actually edit this purchasing graph here. I'm going to click on the edit button up at the top. Come on. There we go. In this case, I'm just going to take a simple report that we've got here and go into our visualizer. And I'm going to show you some of the ways that the attributes show up that we have built through ATX. So over here, measures are basically things like quantities or anything that you can do some type of mathematical calculation on, and attributes are more like keys or descriptions and that type of information. And if I go down and take a look at the attributes, it pulls in all the different attributes that you might want to utilize as part of this. And if I'm looking for specific like vendor information, I could come down here, and under the vendor information, it's going to provide me with additional information that I can grab and add to this report. So in this case here, I am just going to go down and grab the vendor number. And once I have the vendor number, I'm just going to include that as part of the report. So come down here, bring that over. Once I've added it, it's placed the vendor number over here. I might want to move it somewhere else on the report. So just drag it down through here and it will actually move the information to somewhere else on the report. Once I've added something to it, I can go through, do a save and insert, and the information then will appear back on the dashboard and show you what your results look like. So now this information here actually will have the vendor number included on the report. And then if I wish to publish it, I can publish it, and that will firm it up for everybody else to see. So that in itself is a very quick understanding of exactly how you can go through and manipulate information so that you can change or adjust dashboards to fit the needs of your end users. I'm going to go back into the edit and show you one last thing, which is a little bit more in relation to the item warehouse attribute or attributes. So once again, I'm going to grab information that's associated with measures. And I'm just going to put in item warehouse, which is really the one area we've been looking at item warehouse all along, and I'm trying to keep things in the same area. So all these fields that you see over to the left are all the fields that are available from the item warehouse. They have all been pre-calculated. They have all been parsed out and have names that are equal to what you have in XA. So that way you have quantity available, cost current, or allocated to MO cost standard. So all this information is available to you, and it was all pre-generated in a programmatic form, so that way it makes it easier for a person to go and grab the information that they need and pull that into any dashboard or report. And that concludes the demo presentation.
All right. Sorry, I was speaking and I was muted. That didn't do any good. As you can see from what Carlos showed you, how quickly and easy it is to modify this information. Once it's in there, it has the straightforward language that you're used to seeing in IDF. You do not need to understand all the databases to make this work. So the key to this process is, if you understand IDF, if you can find the fields you're looking for in IDF, you can create the graphs and the dashboards to be able to meet your needs at your company. When you get this process, it will come with Burst and ATX. It will come with the dashboards that Carlos was showing you. Guide has written those generically, meaning we all have the same customer file. So we can look at sales history and tell you the top 10 customers over a period of time. So we created generic dashboards that everybody can understand. So when you load this data, you're going to see graphs with your information immediately. But we also know that everybody has their own KPIs, their own way of measuring their data. This will be very easy for you to develop. We have customers that are running this live in weeks. Actually, we have some people that are very intuitive about it and can run it in literally a week. But let's be realistic. For most people, it's going to take a couple weeks to get up to speed and understanding. But the idea of having business intelligence in a month or less, if we were talking 10 years ago, you would be talking a minimum of $500,000 to over $1 million to summarize the data to get to the point that a technical person could develop the graphs. So Burst really is a very powerful tool. With that said, we're about 45 minutes. We've shown you what we wanted to show you. We're going to give you an opportunity. If you want to type in a question, Brad will take a look at those. Otherwise, for those of you that have other activities, feel free to move on, and we appreciate your time. Brad?
Yes, thank you very much for attending this webinar. Just as a reminder, and you'll be getting notice, an invite. Our next webinar is our Release 10 webinar, which is May 6th. We'll be showing you the latest and greatest in a live format of the NetLink capabilities that we talked about to start with. So if you have any questions, please submit those in the question box. Another reminder that you all will receive an email with a link to this presentation in a couple days. So if I don't see any chats or questions. Oh, wait, just a sec. I see. This looks like it is using SystemLink under the covers. Is that the case?
SystemLink and NetLink and Powerlink are actually all a part of IDF. So the answer is yes. If you create something in IDF, so if you go into Power Architecture using Enterprise Integrator, you have the ability, when you create those objects, to publish it in Powerlink, NetLink, or SystemLink. All three of those are functions of the IDF. And something that Carlos mentioned very quickly, I want to make sure you understand it. That includes all your custom Enterprise Integrator objects, fields, files, and enhancements. So when you put it into the IDF, it is included in all three, Powerlink, NetLink, and SystemLink, and all of those feed into Burst.
And if I could qualify this, when we build the model, we also build SQL selects that are based on what it is that we require to pull into Burst. So really, it's not using SystemLink at this case. It's actually using a SQL extract of information, all computer built, so that it's very structured and standard. So it's actually generating SQL code in the background to create the joins, to create the attribute names, to create the aliases, to create the summaries and the concatenations that we need.
We've got a couple other questions. What are some of the difficulties those companies that have started using Burst experienced so far?
I think that one of the bigger problems is actually getting the data, and that's always been the case with any BI tool. Is how do you get the data into Burst in a meaningful fashion? And so that, I think, has been probably the biggest challenge, because creating dashboards or reports is not the challenge.
Mm-hmm. One more question might be related to the first. Specifically, is the data retrieved via SQL or SystemLink? I'm interested in performance characteristics.
Can you repeat that, please?
Specifically, is the data retrieved via SQL or SystemLink? I'm interested in the performance characteristics.
Yeah, it's SQL.
Okay. And that is all of the questions or chats that I have. So
If anybody has more specific questions, feel free to contact Carlos, myself, or your account executive. If this is something of interest, and I believe that this could be used by every one of our customers, please feel free to follow up. We will get back with you and answer much more specifically the questions that you have.
One more question. A couple more questions. Are the permissions via Burst or a custom ATX structure?
The permissions would have to be set up in Burst.
Okay. And then one more question. Is Burst automatically included in the version 10, or is that an extra option? I can answer that one. It is, Burst is an extra option. There are some good cloud offerings for Burst. So if you have an interest, please contact either myself, Brad Spates, or your guide account exec. And that is all the questions that I have. So I'll give just another minute or a few seconds just in case. But again, thank you very much for attending the session. Hope you found it. Burst is a very powerful analytics tool that Infor has. And with the combination of ATX, it makes it even more powerful for XA users. Just makes it all that much easier to get at that data to create your dashboards and KPIs much faster and easier. And one more question. Would we use the standard IBMI tools for monitoring query cost and performance?
I am not. I'm not in position to respond to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. All of your I-Series tools will still be operational. This is Burst is using the star schema to extract the data. Could you see what kind of utilization you're getting out of the system? Absolutely. It's just another job.
We'll give another few seconds to see if there's any follow-ups to that. And as we said, if you have any follow-up questions afterwards, or we didn't quite answer the question to your satisfaction, please send us a note and we'll get back to you with that. Okay, with that, I'm going to say good afternoon, or probably not morning anywhere that anybody's on the session. So, okay, you can send one more question. Send the note. You can send the note to myself, Brad Spates. My email is bspates, SPAITS, @guidetechnologies.com. And I'll route it to the appropriate guide person for that. Okay, with that, thank you very much. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.